Hey everyone, I'm Sean Sunsvold, and I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Better Together podcast. As always, I'm joined by Kelly Sunsvold, my partner in both business and in life. We started this podcast to share the real stories behind building a business, the wins, the stumbles, and the persistence it takes to chase something you believe in. Today, our guest is Tina Larsson. She's the co-founder of the Folson Group and the author of Living the High Life: How a Smart Co-op and Condo Owners Protect Themselves and Their Investment. We'll talk about her journey from Wall Street analyst to co-op reformer, how she built the only business of its kind in New York City, and what she's learned about leadership, entrepreneurship, working and running a business with your spouse, and staying the course, even when the path ahead wasn't clear. So, Tina, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here. I know you've survived a little bit of snow up there in New York here the last few days.
I have. Thank you so much, Sean. And nice to meet you, Kelly.
Great to
be
meet
here.
you too.
So let's start at the beginning. What first opened your eyes to the problems happening in your own co-op, and what made you say, I need to do something about this?
Yes, that's a great question. And so I never take no for an answer. Okay. Doesn't matter what people tell me. Okay. And I hate status quo. So in New York City, if you own, it's called a co-op, but in many places, or a condo, in many places of the country, it's called an HOA or a COA, just for background. So it's an apartment building where the people in the building own their apartments. That's basically the commonality. The legal structure doesn't matter. We owned a co-op. We didn't pay attention. Mark, my husband, or my life partner and business partner, and we said, this board is doing a terrible job. Why are they wasting so much time? There are tons of lawsuits. Nothing is going right. And they don't even communicate with us. So I spoke with some of our neighbors, and we all organized a coup. So we took over the board. Very dramatic. So we took over the board, and the new board, they didn't know what to do. They weren't like, okay, so now what? And they didn't know anything about running buildings, etc. And I didn't either, but I have always been into statistics and comparing numbers. So I said, I'll volunteer to the finance committee and I'll see if I can find any savings. And in the first 3 years, we were able to save our building $340,000.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
I know. And it's millions by now, but we stopped counting at 2 million because then we already had our own business. $340,000 is actually 10% of the annual costs in our building. So when I was out networking, said nobody wants to meet another financial advisor in New York. Everybody's like, I got someone. So I started telling people, introducing myself as I'm Tina Larsson, and I helped my co-op save $340,000. And all of these people said, ooh, can I introduce you to my board?
Nice.
And the rest is history.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, during those 3 years, we also learned that boards of volunteers, they don't have time. They're doing this on their free time. They have a job. They have another specialty. They might be an attorney or a media person or something else. Running a building is not their expertise. And then they don't have the time. They have families. They have hobbies. There's no way they're going to fit this in. And then they don't have the support because they hire a property manager, and the property management business run. So their business model is that they need to have many buildings for one property manager. I don't know about you, but it's like running 8 businesses. So if they run 8 buildings. So I don't know about you, but for me, running one business is keeping me pretty busy.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't have time either. So there was someone that needs to fill that void.
Mm-hmm.
So we started a business.
Nice.
Yeah,
Well,
that's great.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So kind of backing up a little bit, and I'd heard that you have a pretty extensive Wall Street background. What skills or mindsets from that time period really helped you be able to step into the world of real estate and reform, I should say?
Yes, skills from the finance background. So it was my analytical skills. So I was analyzing on Wall Street, I was analyzing businesses for the purpose of investing my clients' money in the stock market. So many, many years ago, one of my favorite statistics teacher, he said to me, you have a knack for statistics. And that stuck with me. I went like, I can do this. When people praise you, you're like, I'm good at that. okay, let's do that. So it was that. And then it was also, before Wall Street, I worked in the hospitality industry. So there's a lot of project management involved in that. And then when I started working for a finance company, it was a small, fairly new company. And there were a bunch of guys, a bunch of young 30-year-old Wall Streeters who said, oh, we'll just hang up our own shingles and start our own company. But they were not very good at the organizational aspects of it. So I had implemented a lot of systems for them that I also used in my practicality of this is not the best way to do things. We should find a better way. And I think that experience also added to me being able to save money and help other buildings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I love how, like, when you have a career, right, in one place and you're able to bring those skills to another place, it gives you such confidence, right, to do the job well. And and as you started this company with your husband, and it's the only company in New York City that does what you guys do, which I think is fantastic and very unique. What do you think between you guys, what do you think made it work for you two that nobody else could seem to figure out?
A lot of patience. I think that everybody thinks that this is something that's needed. Everyone who's ever served a co-op or condo board feels that this is needed. But I think that they didn't really visualize how it could be done. And then they didn't stick with it. We are turning 12 years next month. And then we have the 3 years that we work with our own buildings. I mean, we have done this for 15 years. We just didn't give up. And I think that it's really a multiplier. So it's several items, and it's not only one item. And we have spoken, especially in the very beginning when we started 12 years ago, we spoke with a lot of people who said, oh, this guy is trying to do exactly the same. Or someone else who said, I'm trying to do this little niche within that scope of what you're trying to do. And there's actually a lot of consultants that are very specialized. So there are energy consultants. Well, the energy consultants might provide a fancy report because they have engineers, the mechanical engineers. We're not engineers. We're practical business people who, if there then happens to be a sidewalk needs to be repaired because of what they're working on, we are actually familiar. We have experience with working with sidewalk repairs. So yeah. Great question.
Yeah. It's it's interesting. Kelly and I, we've been married for 22 years. And we've now been working together, in the business the last 3.5 years. And just, the amount of, I think you said it, patience and communication you have to figure out, because then it's not just conversations about like, home life, right? Or getting kids to where they need to go and those type of family logistics. We have these business conversations that we have to figure out how to have too. And you try to make it where the two sort of don't overlap, right? Because you've got the business conversations and the personal conversations that have to stay separate, right?
Yes, but don't you find that it's very efficient? You cut out, you can't have any office gossip because that doesn't exist, right? So that you cut that out. And every time I used to come home and complain about my colleagues or my work or my salary or whatever, we don't do that anymore, right?
Mm-mm.
We might complain that we don't have enough new clients or that the pipeline or something else, but we're complaining about the same thing. It's not like one person is sitting there and going like, why is she complaining about that again?
Mm-hmm.
I don't care about her company.
There's so much truth to what you just said. I hadn't thought about it that way, from the sense of like, it is a very different, you don't have the company politics that you bring home because you are the company. And so conversations are a lot different. And what's something that you've kind of put in place or something that works really well in your partnership that maybe you've had to learn to navigate?
What I've learned to navigate, well, we cut out the waste, right? Is that sometimes, so I always think about new ideas. I always think about, maybe not always about business. I am present, but if we have a date night, sometimes I get the most brilliant idea in the middle of date night, and I just want to talk about it because it's such a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think that that's something that I just really need to be cognizant of, that I shouldn't be so gung-ho.
I mean, I think there's a time and there's a place, but those brilliant ideas, especially if you two are in the same team, you don't want to lose that momentum. And if you have something exciting, I know I've been there, Sean's been there, you want to share it almost in real time. Like, I have this idea. And, I think I've joked on this podcast before about, times and boundaries. We've had to say, okay, hold on, time out. I don't want to talk about this client right now. I want to continue watching my show on Netflix. And so, there's times and places for everything. And so it sounds like you guys kind of go through similar things.
Yes, we do. And I think that it's not always. I mean, don't you feel like that, Kelly, that sometimes at date night we come up with a brilliant idea and it's perfectly fine. And then sometimes Netflix, no, I'm concentrating this and that's okay. I'll get my pen and paper.
Exactly. 100%.
Or I'll get let me just open my chat.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. As you guys got started, one of the things we talked about in our initial call was that your business was met with a lot of resistance when you got started those early years. What helped you and Mark stay committed, to that and moving forward when it wasn't easy and it might have been easier to walk away?
So it's in my nature. If you tell me it can't be done, I'll show you how it's done. So I think that that's a little bit me. But we were also committed, and we saw that the finance industry was changing. We didn't, with everybody trading on their own accounts, and they're all trading on Coinbase, and they're all multi-billionaires because they bought Bitcoin when we didn't, and that, right?
Yeah.
So the finance industry has changed. The demographics has changed. It appears to us that the younger generations, and I'm not talking super young, I'm not talking 18-year-old, I'm talking like by now they're 40. They have probably your age. They don't like to pick up the phone and be in a conversation with their advisor. It seems to, and I'm not that age, so that used to be the case, that everybody was on the phone and they wanted personal advice. They wanted to talk to their attorneys, their CPA, their financial advisor. Whereas we had seen that was kind of shifting to them being perfectly fine with just having an app. So we saw it shifting and we didn't really know how we would fit in there. At the same time as we were very determined. And I think that it was just because we were two people that were very persistent. We were doing a lot of networking. We still do a lot of networking.
Yeah.
But nowadays, we have assistants, we have a whole team. And nowadays, we're very active on LinkedIn. So we get there's a lot of networking going on LinkedIn. And yes, so I don't have a good answer. Persistence.
Yeah. Persistence. Yeah, I can definitely tell that from your personality just right out of the gate. I love that you said that, I don't take no for an answer, Persistence is good. So kind of going back to those first few years, what were some of the growing pains that you had and how did you get through them?
So the property manager is managing day-to-day operation of a building. The board makes the decisions and then they act on them. Property managers act on them. So it's kind of like the CEO of a company has a big idea and then the CFO and COO, they need to implement it. Okay. So it's kind of that relationship. The property manager see themselves as their trusted partner. So they said, but we handle that. You don't need them. We will handle that. We will reduce your expenses. We will get your projects done. Now, since then, so 15 years ago, there was not a whole lot of project management going on because property managers at the time, that was just included in their property management. Since then, they have all set up, or many of them have set up project management divisions, and they charge extra fees for that. So the clients that hire us now are firms or boards that they feel that their property manager is busy enough and they don't really want to work. They want a third party. Mm-hmm. So they hire us for that. But so clearly that portion of our business, there's demand for it because all the property management firms, or many of them, have set that up. So they realized that was needed too. But in the beginning, they just said, no, you don't need them. So we couldn't go to initially we thought, we'll go to the property managers. One of them will hire us, white label us, and we will do all the work for them, and we will make them look really good. And that took about one phone call, and then we realized that that's never going to happen. So we need to reach the board members. There are 3 million New Yorkers who own an apartment.
Wow.
Every single of those 3 million could potentially be in a position to introduce us to their board.
Wow.
So that's been our strategy.
And it's a great strategy. Maybe.
But the last 2 years we've done, since COVID, we started being active on LinkedIn. We improved our website, all the good stuff that you do. I've been on 100 podcasts, trying to get our message out there. I wrote the book.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I wrote the book.
And I'm curious, that is a question, because like you sent me a copy of the book. It was a fantastic read. It's got a lot of very, very good information for, condo and co-op owners to understand how the processes work. And I think that was the biggest thing I took away from it as somebody, as a first-time reader of it. What was it that really prompted you to write that book and to share all that information?
Great question. So what happened? Why did I write it? I wrote it because I had put it down on my 5-year goal. I said, I'm going to write the book. And I actually put it down for April 1st. And that's when I started writing in 2022. So what prompted me to write the book, besides I put it down on a piece of paper, was that our goal has always been to provide, since we started this, to provide boards with the resources and tools that they need to succeed, whether it's the support that we provide or whether it's resources that we provide. Okay, tools, guides, etc. So to operate proactively, what's the worst opposite? It's reactively. And what's the absolute worst case scenario of that? That is the collapse of the condo in Surfside, Florida in 2020. 2020 or 21? I haven't read my own book in a while. So that condo collapse is the ultimate worst case scenario. This book is a guidebook on how to take an owner or a board member from we're not going to do this. These are all the steps we're going to do to operate proactively to prevent any disaster. And it doesn't have to be that disaster, a disaster. And but I work with an edit. For full disclosure, I worked with an editing team because initially I said, my target, they said, what's your target audience? I said, New York City co-op and condo board members. They said, no. It needs to be the 66 million Americans who own in an HOA. So, okay.
Yeah. I mean, if you can scale and make it repeatable, why not go to other cities?
Yeah.
Philadelphia, Boston, that's not too far from you. So on that, what do you wish more co-op and condo board members understood about leadership or financial responsibility?
What do I wish that co-op and condo owners, I just wish that they understood more what a big responsibility it is for the 5, 7, 9 board members who step up and do this on their free time. They're making multi-million-dollar decisions for roof repairs and facade repairs and elevator replacements. In their regular life, many of them have never made a decision. Their biggest decision is whether to buy a car or to buy a vacation, right? So, and there's so many people, if they buy a car or a vacation, who depends on that, right? So now they're making this decision on a building with 100 apartments. It's 150 residents, and it's their investment. So one of the things that we always do, and I encourage people all the time, and one of the goals with the book was for owners to understand how complicated it is so that they would take a proactive approach and volunteer their time to the board. And one of the things that we always tell board, we say, go out and recruit, get as many board members as you can who are not currently board members, because if they sit on the board for 1 year, they're going to realize what a big job it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was something, again, just kind of going back to your book and all the information that's in there, you give a lot of strategies of, how to help, if somebody wants to become a board member or a board leader, you give a lot of good strategies in there of how to help build your team, right? And then how to get things done. There was just so much good information on there. And, again, just lots of years of experience, I'm sure, coming down and, in talking about that. So just a fantastic, bit of information in there.
Thank you. I might have to make a clip out of this and put it on my webpage.
You're welcome to. Like I said, it was just I was just having been somebody who's never been in that situation, right? I felt like I could walk away and at least have the basics of understanding that, when you're sitting on the board of a co-op or something like that, it really is a business, right? It's not just a building. You really have to treat it like a business.
I mean, it's still a building and it's still your home and but it is a business. And think about it. If you ever go to a local restaurant,
Mm-hmm.
the owner is always there.
Mm.
Now you have a board who meets once a month. That's when they meet, once a month. And then the property manager is supposed to act on their decisions. And that person walks the building once a week, maybe, but they're pretty much never seen. Can you imagine running a restaurant? I mean, the restaurant would be out of business in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When we were in New York over the weekend, we had the opportunity to go to 2 different restaurants. Both of them were local. That's one of the criteria we give is, find something local. And you're absolutely right. We had the owner come up, or at least the general manager come up, and there was a vested interest of like, what did you think of the food? Has your service been good? There's inquisitive and curious questions, and it always ends with a, thank you so much for dining with us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you got to take ownership, and that's not always so easy for boards since they have a full-time job.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of on that line of, going from, that ownership idea, right? What had to change in your mindset when you decided to go from being an employee of somebody else's company to being an entrepreneur and running your own?
So my old boss, he was a great mentor. And I was very lucky to have him as my mentor. So when I finished college, or actually, I started working there as an unpaid intern during college. And in the beginning, he treated me like anybody else. And I had a lot of initiatives. I said, we got to do this better, or we got to do this. And he was like, okay, go ahead. Whatever you want to do. And then one day and every year I said to him, it was a small company. Every year he gave me the Christmas bonus, the company's Christmas bonus, and I got them in an envelope, check, like this. And every year I said to him, can you tell me why? I don't care what's in it. I want to know why. And what can I do better? And they had no idea how to run a company or how to, at that time, and it was they might now. So I had to force him every year. I had to twist his arm to get him to give me a review, and it was 2 sentences. And then I think it was year 3 or year 4, he said, you know what? There is one thing you could do better. He said, I want to grow within this firm. Instead of treating yourself as an employee, pretend that you're an owner. And that changed everything for me.
Yeah. Just the mindset shift there. It really, wow. That's good.
I started reading a lot of personal development books, and I started reading leadership books and taking seminars and stuff. And when he said that, he really made me think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. Looking a little bit more at your resiliency, when the path wasn't quite clear, what kept you going?
What kept me going when the path wasn't quite clear is that I just really felt that these people need to be helped.
Yeah.
It was my calling. It was my calling. I have to help everyone. No, I have to help every board. Not everyone. Every board.
Every board. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was just I'm not so sure that I felt initially that it was my calling. I think that kind of grew on me as I realized how invaluable the resources that we provide are. Actually, that in the last few weeks, I went into Claude and I said, how do we know that someone else is not going to do this? Or whatever I said. And he wrote this long thing about how great we were and we were absolutely invaluable. I'm like, I like this guy. Right?
He's hired.
Oh
yeah,
my gosh.
He had like bullet points as all the different value that we provide that is that nobody can do. Nobody can provide it. Like, okay.
Yeah. So I'm curious, you and Mark have had the company for a while now. What's been one of the proudest moments that you've had, since you've started your company?
There's so many. One of the proudest moments. We have helped boards. So let me give you one specific example. So we've had many boards who have called us with the same concern, but this one is very specific. What they said to us, we're so worried that we're going to get into legal trouble. We need to do these repairs. We have leaks. We need to do these repairs. But the condo owners were worried that they're going to sue us, or we're worried that they're not going to allow us to get this done. And it needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
So we organized everything, and we set up a strategy of how we were going to handle all of these different repairs. But we didn't really have a clear, this is not the final version. This is the first draft, right? After the first draft, we said we need to have, and we had some pictures. This is what we initially thought, and this is how bad it really is. And then we held the Zoom call, an owners meeting, and we presented in a way that every single owner afterwards said, where do we send the money?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because it needed to be funded, of course. I mean, repairs, it's expensive. It needs to be funded. Yeah. And so that's a very proud moment. And the board was they were so relieved. They were like, oh, thank you.
Yes. Yeah.
An awesome story.
So for anyone listening who's kind of in that messy middle or starting or trying to scale something, what would be your advice?
Messy middle? Oh, messy middles are always difficult. Take action. Consistency and action. And take action on what matters. So if you write down this is your list. I know that when I started, I had a list. I had lists that were, is this the longest the screen can be?
Yes.
During COVID, I actually took a focus class and I read a really good book. I can't remember the name of it. So it said, only write 3 goals. You're going to have 3, list is going to have 3 items on it. You could potentially also have 3 personal items, but 3 items. These are the big ideas you're going to accomplish today so that you're focused on it. And because if you have 20, you're not going to focus on it. And so that's one. Be focused. Take action. Take the long list. Scratch out all the things that it's never going to make you any money. If it's not going to make you any money, or it's not going to make any difference in your life, and 5 years from now, you're going to look back at it and say, why was that even on my list? Scratch it. And then focus on what really matters and take the action and be consistent. I post every single day, and I have done so since 2020, and we get 80% of our business from LinkedIn.
That's amazing. LinkedIn is a powerful tool for anybody in business who is trying to, especially that B2B space.
Yeah. And I didn't get LinkedIn. It took me a while I thought that it was a resume, but that's not what it is.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. But you understand that as marketers. So.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Well, this has been a fantastic conversation, Tina. How can people find you and learn more about the Folson Group or your book, Living the High Life?
I'm going to give you one resource because that's where you can find everything about me. And that is our webpage. And our website is www.thefolsongroup.com. I have to say that because I don't want anybody to go to Folson Group. It's Folson Group, and it has resources. You can actually download our free chapter, the first chapter from my book there, and it has my LinkedIn handle, so you can log into all my socials, and it has tons of free resources that you can download, absolutely free.
Fantastic. Well, Tina, thanks so much for the time and the insight and just sharing your experience. This has been a really, really fun conversation. So again, thanks for being here and taking the time today.
Thank you both.
Thank you.